Welcome back to Kelpart Bros. Jason and I are fresh off the segment dissecting court storming culture. I've been excited, but never been excited enough to I want to storm a court. Like, to me, that's just like way too close to being having my ass somewhere I don't belong. In the third and final segment of the 75th episode of CPB, we're going to be talking about the Purge Law, or some people are calling it the Purge Law, Jason. Can we be honest?
Only some? Only some? You sure?
I'm trying to be polite. I mean, if you think I'm wrong, just say it.
You're wrong.
I mean, I haven't even seen the damn Purge movies. And I know that has they just don't appeal to me, dog. What can I say? I feel like when someone calls a new law a Purge law, you're basically saying that there won't be any lawfulness, right? And I think a lot of it was based in the fact that some offenses that typically there could have been an opportunity to not be detained automatically. I think people just got it. It screams midterm clickbait. This is what it does. Because to me, it's like, okay, if someone actually kills somebody, I'm fairly certain they're going to be detained. I'm fairly certain a judge is going to determine that. Right, Jason? When I looked into this, the Pretrial Fairness Act is basically saying, hey, we're going to do something about cash bail in our society. Right? And cash bail has been a big bone of contention for a lot of folks. You think about people that for whatever reason they haven't even been found guilty yet, but they can't get bailed out of jail yet. So they're already at a disadvantage. And so as I'm kind of reading about, the response to the Pretrial Fairness Act or the Safety Act, and this was passed in 2021 anyway. And it's not even going to go live until Jan 1, 2023.
Which is around the corner, so it's not far away, but I get your point.
And so, to me, it was way more about eliminating cash bail altogether.
Well, was that why people were calling it the Purge Act, though? Because I kind of I think the point of that part of it, I kind of like people understand that, and I don't know if anybody's really complaining about that or calling it the Purge Law because of that. Because to me, that makes sense. You know what I mean? But that's me. I know people have different opinions, but the title Purge Act thing, that's the part that I'm like, I kind of feel like I wonder if people were calling it that based off of the misinformation out there about this, which I admit I almost got caught up in, to be honest with you. I think I kind of hinted that when we talked about this a couple weeks ago. But then once I actually learned some things, it's kind of like, okay, that, maybe what I was reading before about this stuff originally, that doesn't really make sense. But this is probably clearly the actual factual of all of this stuff. So I kind of wonder if the Purge Act title that people are throwing out there is really just based off misinformation and sensationalism as well. Excuse me. Your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, it feels like this is a standoff, and it's typical, partisan politics, because clearly the Illinois House GOP, they took that and they fucking ran with it. Because when I looked at some of the articles, basically calling it the Purge Act, you're basically saying that these crimes, and I'm just looking at one thing that was referenced by the Illinois House GOP on Twitter, is that you can't be detained pre-trial because of robbery or burglary or arson or vehicular invasion or DUI causing bodily harm or death or involuntary manslaughter, reckless homicide, second-degree murder, concealment of a homicidal death, kidnapping. I'm like, there's no way in hell those people are not gonna sit in jail for a minute.
That's honestly that's exactly what I got caught up in, was that whole non-detainable thing, because those are graphic, probably several out there showing those lists of those things you just mentioned, saying that the Illinois non-detainable offenses beginning again January 1, 2023, and including second degree murder. Which hindsight being 2020, as you say that out loud, it sounds pretty stupid, doesn't it? That somebody who committed second-degree murder can be just released pre-trial, blah, 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 blah. But yeah, so basically, yeah, that's one fact check there. The Safety Act does not create any non-detainable offenses. Illinois law has no such thing. Because, folks, again, I almost got caught up in it. If you listen out loud and read that graphic again, it doesn't make any sense. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, and I just want to be clear. The Pretrial Fairness Act is actually part of the Safety Act.
Correct.
But it was passed in 2021 and it will go into effect on Jan 1, 2023.
Also correct.
Here's my thing. If the judge still has final say of whether your ass gets detained or not, then that's all smoke and mirrors from the GOP. If the judge says, hey, guess what? You don't get to go home on this rap, then you're being detained.
Exactly. And it's going to be based off the case itself, the severity, extremity, stuff like that, but not necessarily based off the wallet size of the person we're talking about. So, but yeah, the story definitely caught fire when it comes to, media, social media, YouTube reactors reacting to this, which of course is more attention for Illinois. In this case, negative attention based off the misconceptions of the act itself. So I found it quite interesting, which normally I'd say, hey, people are talking about Illinois. Hey, that's good. People are talking about it. But, when I watch the reactors talking about this stuff on YouTube, it's like, that's not what it is. And that's really kind of what made me think about this as a topic was all the reactions people were having to it, but were they reacting to the actual facts of the act or just a certain graphic or graphics that went across social media that were incorrect? I found a lot of articles that have a lot of fact checks on there, a lot of different things and stuff, even including defunding the police. Supposedly saying the act does not allow for defunding. It does talk about funding aspects of the police, but none of it actually talks about defunding them specifically. Obviously, the cash bail one, like we talked about as well. So yeah, definitely advise anybody to not look at social media when it comes to this act or whatnot. Go to like any Illinois government website that talks about this and actually read up on this stuff. Yeah, and you'll definitely get a better sense of what's actually real when it comes to what's on social media and what's actually fake because it is on social media. So
yeah, I think you just have to stop for 2 seconds and think. I'm like, wait a sec. It's always the people versus X, right? The state is absolutely going to have a say in that. Of whether or not they think, oh, we think this person should be detained. And here's why. Right? Like you can say whatever you want about the United States of America. It's still a nation of laws.
You mean there's no lawlessness like everybody wants to say?
We
can't just do what we want.
I mean, if you don't agree with the law, fine. But don't make up maniacal scenarios like actual motion pictures to get there. A local municipality feels that person X should be detained, and here's why they're going to do it. That person's representation will say, I don't feel they should be detained, and here's why. And then the judge will make a ruling. And everyone's going to have to live with the fallout from that. Just like they do today when, certain individuals are, early release or they get probation or I don't know. I just think that the GOP did itself a disservice by going on the crazy train on this. Because if you're so pro law and order, then operate in reality that is law and order.
I love Law and Order, by the way. It's an excellent show. It's been on forever. Shout out to Olivia Benson. We love you.
Wow. But yeah, there's no reason to make things up about the law or the group of laws that are going to be passed as a result of this.
See, I don't know if it's just people making stuff up or they just don't know and they're just going off of what they see on social media. So I'm not sure. Is it people really making up stuff or just them that's not knowing? in the
I
swing of
mean,
things.
if
Because
you're in
again,
politics, yes, you are making stuff up. And if
yeah,
you're
fair enough.
and if you just happen to run across some poorly sourced article that actually called it the Purge Law, and you didn't care enough to actually Google that this damn thing was passed, a year ago, and it's going to be enacted on Jan 1 next year. If you didn't even know that, then I challenge you, dig a little deeper. Don't pull the Little Mermaid response where it's just knee jerk. Actually do some homework. Because when you actually dig into this, I'm just like, okay, well, unless you've magically removed the state's ability to say why person X shouldn't or should be detained, then I don't think this is nearly as provocative as it was presented originally.
Now, I will admit to myself that when it comes to the Safety Act, everything, I may have been aware of it back when it was, not enacted, but basically when it was approved or whatnot. But I think why it's a big deal now, it's like I was saying, is that with it being around the corner, that's basically 3-ish months away, or 4 months, whatever, from happening. So that's probably why it seems like it's like when weed was going to be legal in Illinois. May not be the best example, but I bet you some people might not have heard it was legal, but bet you the day before it happened, everybody knew about it at that point because everybody was talking about it.
Or they were smoking up. Either way.
Probably. One other thing I do want to point out here is just one other little fact here. Eliminating cash bail will allow criminals to run amok forever. Actually, not that one. Ending cash bail will release dangerous criminals into the community. Excuse me. So basically, anybody who's convicted in jail for any type of offense is not going to be automatically released because of this. This really is for anybody arrested on January 1 and after. So it's not like they're going to release everybody that's in prison everywhere in Illinois for certain offenses. Hey, you get to get out of jail. Folks, you know why that's not going to happen. So I don't think I need to explain that. That's not going to happen. Some of these crimes we're talking about are violent offenders, so they're not just going to release violent offenders just because cash bail is eliminated now. That's not going to happen. So again, like Terrence said, definitely fact check things, Google governmental websites, things like that. Definitely good to go. Again, love the attention for Illinois, but I love for Illinois to get the positive attention, or at least get attention for the correct and accurate things. You feel me, dog? Do you feel me out there, people?
All right. That concludes our segment on the now debunked Purge Law. And with that, we'll wrap up the show.